Hi friends, this is me Payal Dutta, and in today's video I'm going to help you with the line-by-line explanation of The Boy Who Broke the Bank by Ruskin Bond. And before we begin this story, I want you to remember that this story was published in a book called Night Train at Deoli and Other Stories by Ruskin Bond. So without much delay, quickly subscribe to my channel and let us start. Nathu grumbled to himself as he swept the steps of the Pipalnagar bank, owned by Seth Govind's Ram. So Nathu is a sweeper boy, and he is sweeping, he is cleaning the steps of the Pipalnagar bank. The Pipalnagar is in Uttarakhand. And this bank, who was the owner of this bank? Seth Govind Ram. And Nathu, while he was cleaning the steps, he was grumbling, he was complaining. So he was dissatisfied with something. He used the small broom hurriedly and carelessly. So as he was sweeping, how did he use the broom? The broom means the brush. Hurriedly and carelessly. That is very quickly and very irresponsibly. And the dust, after rising in a cloud above his head, settled down again on the steps. So because he was cleaning the place in a very careless manner, what happened? The dust that was there on the stairs, it was rising, it was soaring in a cloud. It formed a cloud above Nathu's head, and then again it calmed down and settled down again on the steps of the Pipalnagar bank. So whatever Nathu was doing, it was not productive at all. As Nathu was banging his pan against a dustbin, so you see he was grumbling, he was complaining, he was frustrated because of some reason, and that is why he was banging. That is, he was hitting the pan with which he was collecting all the dust. So he took that pan and he banged it. He hit it against the dustbin. Sitaram, the washerman's son, passed by. So Sitaram is another character. He was passing by. That is, he went by. So he was observing Nathu as he banged the pan against the dustbin. Sitaram was on his delivery round. So you see, he was the washerman's son, and so he was distributing clothes. Delivery round means he was on his distribution round. He was dispatching all the clothes. He had a bundle of freshly pressed clothes balanced on his head. So on his head, he had a bundle, a parcel of freshly pressed clothes. So they were ironed clothes, and he positioned them on his head. Don't raise the dust, he called out to Nathu. So he is telling Nathu, please don't raise the dust because I am carrying clean clothes. And if you raise the dust, the clothes will turn dirty. Are you annoyed because they are still refusing to pay you an extra 2 rupees a month? So he is asking Nathu, why are you so frustrated? Are you annoyed? Are you angry because the bank is rejecting to pay you the extra amount? They are rejecting to increment your salary? They are declining to pay? Is that the cause of your frustration? I don't wish to talk about it, complained the sweeper boy. So Nathu, the sweeper boy, he complained, he protested that he did not feel like talking about this matter. He did not feel like talking about his payment. I haven't even received my regular pay. So he did not get his normal wages either. And this is the 20th of the month. So the month is already ending and I still did not get my regular salary. Who would think a bank would hold up a poor man's salary? So who can believe, who can think that such a thing can happen to a poor man? A man who is so poor, a sweeper boy, his salary has been held up. Hold up means delay, to detain. As soon as I get my money, I'm off. So Nathu is telling, the day I get my wages, I am off. I'll quit my job. My job in the Pipalnagar bank. Not another week, I work in this place, in this bank. So I will not work for an extra day after I receive the money. I will leave. I will resign. And Nathu banged the pan against the dustbin several times. So he is emphasizing that he is extremely frustrated. Just to emphasize this point, to highlight that he is stressed, to give weightage to his frustration, he is continuously banging the pan against the dustbin. And that is giving himself confidence. So this sign of revolting, it is giving him some courage, some boldness. Well, I wish you luck, said Sitaram. So Sitaram is telling Nathu that I wish that you get your salary and your salary is incremented in time. I'll keep a lookout for any jobs that might suit you. So Sitaram, tells Nathu that he would keep a watch for any vacancies that might be convenient for Nathu. So he is going to find another job for Nathu. And he plodded barefoot along the road. Plodded means he walked slowly but with heavy steps. So Sitaram, he had this bundle of clothes on his head. So he was walking slowly. The big bundle of clothes hiding most of his head and shoulders. So here Ruskin Bond is actually telling us the life of the labouring class. How they struggled. You see, Nathu is struggling to get his pay and Sitaram, he is overburdened with bundle of clothes that he has to deliver. He has so many clothes that he is unable to walk properly. His head, his shoulders, they are almost hiding. At the fourth home he visited, Sitaram heard the lady of the house mention that she was in need of a sweeper. So he was on his distribution round and Sitaram heard that this lady, she was stating that she was in requirement of a sweeper. She was looking for a sweeper. Tying his bundle together, that is all the other clothes together, he said to the lady, I know of a sweeper boy who is looking for work. So here he is recommending Nathu to the lady. He can start from next month. He is with the bank just now, but they aren't giving him his pay and he wants to leave. So Sitaram, he not only informs this lady that he has a sweeper boy in hand, but he also tells the lady that the condition of the bank is deteriorating. It is declining. It is declining to such an extent that they are unable to pay the sweepers. Is that so? Said Mrs. Shrivastava. So this lady of the house, her name was Mrs. Shrivastava. So when she hears that the bank is unable to pay, she's shocked. And so she asks Sitaram that, are you telling the truth? Is it so? And do you have a sweeper boy in hand? Well tell him to come and see me tomorrow. So tell the sweeper boy who you know to visit me, to see me the next day. And Sitaram, glad that he had been of service to both here refers to Nathu and the lady. So Sitaram, he was very pleased. He was glad that he could give service to the lady, that is, benefit the lady as well as Nathu, a customer, both a customer and his friend. Here, customer refers to Mrs. Sitaram and his friend Nathu. Hoisted his bag on his shoulders and went his way. So probably he has to deliver the other clothes to the other customers. So that is why he hoisted his bag, meaning he raised his bag again on his shoulders and he left for his usual delivering of clothes. Mrs. Sitaram, she was a villager, a local of the village of Pipalnagar. Mrs. Srivastava had to do some shopping. She gave instructions to the ayah, that is the maid or the servant as you say, about looking after the baby. So this ayah, she was like a babysitter and told the cook not to be late with the midday meal. So she had a cook, she had an ayah, and she told the cook to prepare the meal on time. And she set out for the Pipalnagar marketplace because you see she went for shopping to make her customary tour of the cloth shops. So she made a customary tour. Customary means she made a regular tour. She went to this cloth shop daily. So because it has been a continuous event, a regular event, it seemed like a custom. A large shady tamarind tree grew at one end of the bazaar. So in the corner of the bazaar, you had a tamarind tree, a large tamarind tree. And it was here that Mrs. Srivastava found her friend Mrs. Bhushan sheltering from the heat. So it was very hot, and this friend of Mrs. Srivastava, that is Mrs. Bhushan, she was sheltering herself. She was protecting herself from the heat of the sun. Mrs. Bhushan was fanning herself with a large handkerchief. She was fanning herself. She was cooling herself. She complained of the summer, which she affirmed. She affirmed means she declared, she confirmed, was definitely the hottest in the history of Pipalnagar. So Pipalnagar has never witnessed, has never experienced such heat. That is what she declared. She then showed Mrs. Srivastava a sample of the cloth she was going to buy. So Mrs. Srivastava, remember, she was interested in cloth. So that is why, what did she do? Mrs. Bhushan, she showed Mrs. Srivastava a sample of the cloth that she was about to buy. And for 5 minutes, they discussed its shade, texture and design. So these women, they were very much into clothes and marketing. So they were having a good conversation about this cloth, and having exhausted this topic about clothes, when they finished having a discussion, when they exhausted, that is, they completed their complete discussion about the topic of clothes, Mrs. Srivastava, she is telling to Mrs. Bhushan, "Do you know, my dear, that Seth Govindram Bank can't even pay its employees? Only this morning I heard a complaint from their sweeper who hasn't received his wages for over a month." So whatever information Sitaram had given Mrs. Srivastava, she is passing it on to Mrs. Bhushan. And what does she tell her? That Seth Govindram Bank cannot pay its workers. She had heard from a sweeper of the complaint, of an objection, that his payment was not being given. His payment was delayed for over a month. "Shocking, that is unbelievable," remarked Mrs. Bhushan. Remarked means she commented on what Mrs. Srivastava had to say. If they can't pay the sweeper, they must be in a bad way. Bad way means the bank is in a terrible condition, in a very bad condition. None of the others could be getting paid either. So if the bank cannot pay the sweeper boy, obviously the other workers, they aren't getting paid either. She left Mrs. Srivastava at the tamarind tree and went in search of her husband, who was sitting in front of Kamal Kishore's photographic shop talking with the owner. So Mrs. Srivastava, she was left alone under the tamarind tree, and Mrs. Bhushan, after hearing what has happened, she is searching for a husband to give the news. So you see, the news is spreading. It is like a rumor spreading. And where was her husband? He was sitting in front of Kamal Kishore's photographic shop. And he was talking to Kamal Kishore. They were having a conversation while the ladies, they were busy talking about clothes and shopping. So there you are, cried Mrs. Bhushan. So she has spotted her husband, and so she is saying that, oh, you are here in Kamal Kishore's shop. I've been looking for you for almost an hour. Where did you disappear? So where did you vanish? I've been looking out for you. Nowhere, replied Mr. Bhushan. Had you remained stationary in one shop? Stationary means if you had stayed in a shop. If you halted in a shop, then I might have found you. But you go from one shop to another like a bee in a flower garden. So this mark is a simile. So Mr. Bhushan is telling his wife that if you stopped in a shop and you did your marketing there, then I could find you. But you are always hopping from one shop to another, just like the bees in a flower garden. That is why I couldn't find you in the market. And so I have come to Kamal Kishore's shop and I am waiting for you here. Don't start grumbling. That is, don't start complaining about my acts. The heat is trying enough. Trying means it is very much frustrating. It is very much stressful. I don't know what's happening to Pipalnagar. Even the bank's about to go bankrupt. So it is about to go bankrupt. Bankrupt means the bank will become depleted. It will become insolvent. It won't be able to pay its debts anymore. What's that? Said Kamal Kishore, that is the photographer. Sitting up suddenly. Which bank? So which bank are you talking about? So Kamal Kishore, he overheard their conversation and now he is upset. So he is telling that which bank is going to go bankrupt. Which bank are you talking about? Why, the Pipalnagar bank, of course. I hear they have stopped paying their employees. Don't tell me you have an account there, Mr. Kishore. No, but my neighbor has, he exclaimed. Your neighbor refers to the shopkeeper who used to own the shop next to the photographer's shop. That is next to Kamal Kishore's shop. Your neighbor is the shopkeeper next to his shop. And so he exclaimed, he cried out. And he called out over the low partition to the keeper of the barber's shop next door. So you have the photographer's shop and then you have the barber. So Kamal Kishore, he called out, he shouted, there was a partition between the two shops. So from that partition, over it, he shouted to the other shopkeeper, the barber, and he told him. And what was the name of the barber? Deep Chand. So he is telling, Deep Chand, have you heard the latest? The latest means, did you hear the current news? The Pipalnagar bank is about to collapse. So the Pipalnagar bank, it's about to dissolve. You'd better get your money out as soon as you can. So you must withdraw your money, Deep Chand, if you have any account in the bank. Because the bank is about to break down. Deepchand, who was cutting the hair of an elderly gentleman, was so startled that his hand shook and he nicked his customer's right ear. So Deepchand, the barber, he was doing his job, and what was he doing? He was trimming the hair of an elderly gentleman. And when he hears that the bank is about to collapse, he was startled, he was frightened, he was shocked. And because of this reaction of his fright, what did he do? He nicked, he chipped, he cut the customer's right ear. The customer yelped with pain. Yelped means he was screaming with pain and distress. Distress means he was upset. Pain because of the cut, naturally, and distress, troubled because of the awful news he has just heard. So even the customer, he has come to know about the unpleasant news, the awful news of the collapsing, of the bankruptcy of the Pipalnagar bank. With one side of his neck still unshaven, he sped across the road to the general merchant's store. So what did the customer do? He forgot everything and he sped. That is, he moved quickly across the road. And where did he go? To the general merchant's show. That is like a grocery show where you have all the general things, a retailer, where there was a telephone. So he wanted to dial someone, call someone. Whom did he call? He dialed Seth Govind's Ram's number. So he wants to confirm whether the news is true or not. The Seth was not at home. Where was he then? The Seth was holidaying, so he was in a vacation in Kashmir. Oh, was that so? That is it true? The elderly gentleman, that is the customer, did not believe it. He hurried back to the barber's shop and told Deepchand, "The bird has flown." Flown means he has escaped. Your bird is Seth Govind Ram. Seth Govind Ram has left town. Definitely it means a collapse of the bank. And then he dashed out. That is, he hurried away out of the shop, the barber's shop, making a beeline for his office and checkbook. Beeline means to directly go to his office and get his checkbook and withdraw his money. Beeline means when you go directly from one place to another. The news spread. So the news, it is circulating like rumor through the bazaar with the rapidity of forest fire. So with the speed of forest fire, this rumor is spreading. From the general merchants, it traveled to the shop. It here refers to the news. Circulated among the customers. So it was transmitting amongst them. It was passing on among them. And then spread with them in various directions. In various directions of the village. To the beetle seller, the tailor, the free vendor, the jeweler, the beggar sitting on the pavement. So, from the very business class men to the big beggar, that is all the rich, the poor, everyone was informed about this collapse of the bank. Old Ganpat, the beggar, had a crooked leg. So, his leg was crooked. This beggar, he was old with a crooked leg. He had been squatting on the pavement for years. Squatting means when you sit on your knees, bent. So your legs, they are crouching on the pavement, on the roadside of the village for several years. So he used to beg there, calling for alms, begging for money. In the evening, someone would come with a barrow and take him away. A barrow is like a cart, a hand cart, which you use, and it has wheels. So someone used to lift him on this cart and take him home in the evening because he was unable to walk, this poor beggar. He had never been known to walk. But now, After learning that the bank was about to collapse, it was about to break down, Ganpat, the old beggar with the crooked leg, he was astonished. He too was shocked, and he astonished everyone. He shocked everyone in the village by leaping to his feet. So even he started walking. Someone who never walked has started walking and actually running at top speed in the direction of the bank. So you see, even this beggar, he had a small amount of investment in the bank. It soon became known that he had 1,000 rupees in saving. So he too invested some amount, that is 1,000 rupees, in the Pipalnagar bank. And when he heard that the bank is about to collapse, what did he do? He too started running at top speed towards the Pipalnagar bank. Men stood in groups at street corners discussing the situation. So all the villagers, they are in a confusion. There is chaos taking place and they are discussing the situation. They are talking about the crisis of the bank. Pipalnagar seldom had a crisis. So this village, there was rarely a case of emergency taking place there. Seldom or never had floods. So this village did not encounter any floods, any earthquakes or droughts. So disaster and calamity rarely hit this village. And the imminent crash of the Pipalnagar bank set everyone talking and speculating and rushing about in a frenzy. So when a crisis has finally taken place, everyone has gone in a frenzy. They have become mad. They are in a confusion. The imminent crash, that is the upcoming crash, the approaching breakdown of the bank, it set everyone in talking, in discussing and speculating and guessing about what could happen if the bank collapses. Some boasted of their farsightedness. So some of them, they took it to their pride. They boasted about it because of they were good at predictions. They were far-sighted and they congratulating themselves on having already taken out their money. So they were complimenting themselves that we have already taken out our money, we have withdrawn our money, and that is why we take pride in it, or on never having put any in. So those who did never deposit any money in the bank, they were even pleased. They were proud of themselves. Others speculated, others analyzed on the reasons for the crash. So they were all thinking what were the reasons, what were the causes that would lead to such a crisis. Putting it all down to excess indulged in by Seth Govind Ram. So what did they conclude? Put it all down means they concluded that the cause of this collapse of the bank was Seth Govind Ram. And why was he responsible? Because of his excess indulged. Excess means all his luxuries that he indulges himself in, that he satisfies himself with. So this going to Kashmir and all these travel expenses, these are the causes of the collapse of the bank. The Seth had fled the state of Uttarakhand. Said one. He had fled the country, that is, he has left India, said another. He was hiding in Pipalnagar, said a third. So everyone is making their own wild guesses. He had hanged himself, that is, he has committed suicide from the tamarind tree, said a fourth, and had been found that morning by the sweeper boy. How sad. By noon, the small bank, that is the Pipalnagar bank, had gone through all its ready cash. Ready cash means the cash in hand, the liquid cash that was finished because everyone is withdrawing their money. And the harassed manager, that is the stressed manager, he was in a dilemma. He was in a very difficult situation. He was in a trouble, a problem. The emergency funds. What are emergency funds? They are funds that are kept aside for financial security. So that security fund, that reserved fund, could only be obtained from another bank some 30 miles distant. Distant means away. And he wasn't sure he could persuade the crowd, that is, he could convince the crowd to wait until then. So the manager, he was unable to handle the crowd. Money was not available and the reserved fund could be obtained from another bank that was 30 miles away. So he needed some time and the crowd did not give the manager so much time. And there was no way of contacting Seth Govind Ram on his houseboat in Kashmir. He was enjoying his vacation and there was no means of communication with him. People were turned back. They were returned from the counters and told to return the following day. So they were told to return the next day. They, that is the customers, they did not like the sound of that. They did not like the response of the bank that you have to come the next day. They want their money instantly. And so what did they do? And so they gathered outside the bank, on the steps of the bank and shouted, "Give us our money or we'll break in." We'll break in means we will enter your bank forcefully if you don't give us our money. And fetch the Seth. Fetch means bring him. Bring the owner. We know he's hiding in a safe deposit locker. Mischief makers who didn't have any paisa in the bank joined the crowd and aggravated their mood. So mischief makers, the troublemakers who did not even invest in the Pipalnagar bank, who had no purpose to revolt, even they joined the crowd and aggravated. Aggravated means they annoyed them more. They infuriated them. Their current mood, the current temper of the crowd. So they added fuel to the fire. They made the situation worse. These troublemakers. The manager stood at the door and tried to placate them. Placate them means he tried to pacify them. He tried to calm the crowd. He declared that the bank had plenty of money. He announced that Pipalnagar Bank had sufficient money, but no immediate means of collecting it. So there was no instant method, no means of collecting that liquid cash. He urged them to go home and come back the next day. So he begged the customers that please come back tomorrow. "We want it now," chanted some of the crowd. Chanted means they are repeatedly saying that we want it now. Now, now, now. And a brick hurtled through the air. It hurtled through the air means it flinged through the air. So someone has thrown a brick at the bank and crashed through the plate glass window of the Pipalnagar bank. The plate glass means it is a large single sheet of glass, and that crashed, that collided with the glass. The brick collided with the glass, and the glass, it shattered into pieces. So you see, there's violence because of a rumor. Nathu arrived the next morning to sweep the steps of the bank. So he comes back to his regular duty. He saw the refuse and the broken glass and the stones. The refuse means the litter, the waste, the broken pieces of glass that are fallen on the steps. And the stones cluttering the steps. Cluttering means they are gathered in the steps. You have stones, litter, glass, and Nathu is very much irritated. Raising his hands in a gesture of horror. Gesture means in a sign of shock and disgust. He is displeased with whatever has happened. He cried, "Hooligans! Hooligans means troublemakers, mischief makers. Sons of donkeys, sons of fools. As though it isn't bad enough to be paid late. It seems my work has also been increased. So there is no increment of my wages, no increment of my salary, but my work has been increased. I have to clean this dirty floor, the dirty steps. He smote the steps with his broom, scattering the refuse. Scattering the refuse means he's spreading the waste here and there carelessly. He smote the steps, that is, he hit the steps, he banged the steps with his broom. So again he's showing his frustration. And now you have Sitaram coming in the morning again. Maybe he's on his round. Good morning, Nathu, said the washerman's boy. So he is greeting Nathu. Good morning. Sitaram has come. The washerman's boy, Sitaram. Getting down from his bicycle. So this time he was on his bicycle. Last time he was walking. Are you ready to take up a new job from the 1st of next month? You'll have to, I suppose, now that the bank is going out of business. So Sitaram is telling that you are choiceless. You have to take a new job. So next month I have a job offer for you. So are you ready to take it up? Because the bank is going out of business. Out of business means it is going to shut down. How's that? That is, how is the bank going to shut down? What is the reason behind it? Haven't you heard? Well, you'd better wait here till half the population of Pipalnagar arrives to claim their money. So you wait here in the steps and you watch that the villagers are going to come here soon, the population, the villagers, and they will claim their money. They will request, they will demand for their money from the manager, because the manager has asked them to come the next day. So that is the day. And he waved cheerfully. So he's departing, and so he is waving back Nathu. He did not have a bank account and sped away on his bicycle. So he did not have an account in the bank, so he had no revolt to make. So he got up on his bicycle and he sped away. Sped away means he left quickly on his cycle. He raced on his bicycle. Nathu went back to sweeping the steps. So he continued with his job, muttering to himself. He whispered, he murmured to himself. When he had finished his work, when he completed cleaning the steps, he sat down on the highest step to await the arrival of the manager. So he was waiting for the entry of the manager. He was determined to get his pay. So he was resolute that today I will take my pay. What if the bank collapses? What if this news is true? So he was strong-willed. He was determined. He was resolute to get his payment. Who would have thought the bank would collapse? He said to himself. So he is in wonder and looked thoughtfully into the distance. So he was sitting on a high platform. So he was absorbed in his thoughts. He was thinking thoughtfully into the distance. I wonder how it could have happened. So he is totally lost. He doesn't understand how a bank like Pipalnagar, where everyone, the rich as well as old Ganpat the beggar, he invests his money, that is about to collapse. So in this story, you see, there is a lack of communication that is leading to the spreading of rumors. Everyone has started to interpret the crisis in their own way, and that has led to the problem in the bank. It has led to such a problem that the bank is about to decline. So here we can say that the title of the story is quite appropriate. And Ruskin Bond has successfully used humor and irony to satirize the human race. It is showing that the workers, they are being underpaid. It is showing that how the people in a village are spreading rumors and creating a chaos. So human communication is very much important. So I hope this chapter is clear to you. So with this, I come to an end of today's discussion. If you have any queries, you can write them in the comment section below. I will definitely answer. And you have quizzes for every chapter in your syllabus which I have uploaded, so you may definitely try out those quizzes. And if you are searching for any particular video, please check the playlist, because I have arranged the playlist quite beautifully. It is well arranged and you will not have any problem in finding the video which you want. So till I come back in my next video. Ta-da!